Good afternoon, one and all. Dr. Asit Mahapatra is a production engineer. He has done his post-graduation in management from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, and PhD from Central University, Aligarh Muslim University. Sir has more than 32 years of work experience in the areas of human resources management, quality, industrial engineering, and employee relations in reputed Indian and multinational companies. He has been responsible for HR functions in various industry segments like manufacturing, engineering, chemicals, pharmaceutical, food, retail, information technology, and financial services. Sir started his career in Tata Motors in the year 1980 and worked for 14 years. Sir then moved to ICICI Bank as Vice President HR. Subsequently, he joined the multinational pharmaceutical company, Park Davis, as Director Human Resources. He also worked as VP HR and Quality with Blue Star, Senior Vice President HR with Jubilant Organosis, etc. Before joining his current job, he was working as a Senior VP HR at Reliance Retail, heading the Pan-India HR operations of their mega retail venture. Currently, Sir is working as Director HR Textiles at Raymond Limited. He is responsible for HR functions of the 7 manufacturing units, sales and marketing division, and international business covering more than 11,500 employees. He has been selected as a top talent by Raymond Management. Dr. Mahapatra has been trained in Japan and USA in the area of human resources management. He is accredited as management teacher by All India Management Association. He is certified to conduct psychological tests like MBTI, Thomas Profiling and Predictive Index, and SHL. He is also certified as a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. He has been trained as an executive coach. Sir is a life member of National HRD Network. He is also a fellow member of the Institution of Engineers and a member of All India Management Association. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you here today. The podium is all yours.
A very good afternoon to you all. Yeah, that's nice. I think you have a lot of energy here. What I'm happy about is that after sitting, this is the second day, and after close to the lunch break. So normally a faculty is a challenge. In fact, when they were trying to request me, I told, look, please give me one slot before lunch break, because I'm very passionate and always look forward to connecting up with young people like you. Before I start my presentation, I would like to humbly thank the management, Colonel Balasubramaniam, and especially Professor Suresh Padi, who has been literally persuading me to come to this campus. And I'm happy that I'm here. Whenever I make a presentation to such a big audience, I always try to find out what is the profile of the participants and what are the areas I can engage them, and so that some value addition should be there for them, because you are going to stay connected with me close to an hour or more depending on your time engagement. Please remember one thing, many faculties, speakers have come in and there's an overload of lot of information. But my personal submission to you is, in any such seminar or workshop, try to pick up at least 1 or 2 ideas from each presenter, because remember, each of you have unique experience so far, even though you're a student. I have spent 32 summers and winters in the industry. We learn some, we unlearn some. Many times young people like you who join me, they tell that, when I tell that I want to learn from you, they think that I'm joking with them. They tell that, look, what is you have been so experienced and we need to learn. Maybe partly true, but remember, every person is capable of thinking, coming with new ideas. I'll also dwell upon when I'm making presentation, tell you that how you can make a difference in your career or in your life. So we will quickly go through the presentation. I have done some homework and some research presentation I brought in to drive home some of the points. Okay? 12:45. Okay, that's okay. I'll keep it. What we are basically trying to cover is, these are the aspects I'm going to cover. Challenges that will be faced by the organization in the next few years. Survival to growth, what the status we are in. Of course, different companies will be in different life cycle of growth or the decline phase. HR strategies that leads to the desired changes in the organization. And in a nutshell, we'll sum up this thing and look forward to engaging some questions and answers. No question is foolish enough, I would say. In fact, many times people are very hesitant whether do I ask this question. Feel free. And if the time is a constraint, because I'm very particular about the timelines, then offline we will engage. And I'm not going to leave your campus if I'm not able to satisfy even a single query which has come to me. That's my promise. Okay? When you look at the challenges that will be faced by the organization in the next few years, you see the top, this surveys the CEOs agenda by EMA partners, and you can see that what is top is is the inability to attract and retain talent. Many times people feel that yes, there are more talent available in the market than required, but it's not true at all. And I have been facing this problem in many organizations I've worked. To get a right talent is not easy, and those talent, they don't stick around also, both ways. Attraction and retention is very essential. Then the other, if you see that way, innovation is one, even though that innovation is very, very essential in an organization. At the end of the day, companies which innovate, and they grow with the growing times. How many of you know about Westinghouse as an organization? Raise your hands. Do you know about Westinghouse? Very few. GE, how many of you know? Maybe, probably everybody. Why I want to bring home this point, GE and Westinghouse years back were neck to neck. Probably Westinghouse a little better than GE, but they never changed with the changing times. So GE has taken over and really trying to be number one and number two in whatever field they are doing it. So it is important that you need to innovate, and you can't sit on your past laurels and be what you are and think that yes, I'm going to be the number one. Not possible. Even at Raymond, even though we're leader in the worsted suiting and garment segments, but we are not sitting on past. We know that sooner than later there will be players. There will be not even in India, but our multinational players will take over. This is very essential to acknowledge this fact. When you look at the major HR challenges, employee engagement is number one, which is coming on the list, followed by, of course, talent management, and if you see that way, outsourcing, which is also an important thing. I want to bring to your notice that many students ask that in HR, many of you will be trying to make a career in HR, they tell that we hear that the number of jobs are going to get reduced because many jobs are outsourced to external partners. That's a fact of life. So what I tell them, don't be in a hurry to be a journalist in a function. Try to acquire a particular strength. I call a subject matter expert. Even in HR, I can tell you, I come from that space. You can be a compensation benefit expert or a talent acquisition expert, we call TA, which is called recruitment. Otherwise, you will not be able to really be acknowledged for your contribution to the organization. In the starting career, don't be in a hurry to join and change jobs because somebody is giving you 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees more. Never look at, even the campus, most of the campus I go, I tell them, students, don't worry about who your friend is getting, how much salary, whatever it is. Join a company, even the small or big, which provides the learning opportunities. But your foundation is going to be set in the corporate career, and so be careful about it. And once you join a company, no, that's not my dream company, I was forced to join, take it out from your mind. If you're young, joining an organization at 24, 25, and you want to work like me till 60, so you will have a number of years to serve. So stick around in the company for at least 3 to 4 years. If you join a company and leave in a year, you also leave a wrong precedence. Because you are the ambassadors, like Dilip has said, of this institute. Suppose somebody is hiring you, if the attrition is more, the HR people, otherwise the business people, you're going to marketing department, so you're not going to work with HR. It's a facilitator. They'll tell, no, this institute, please don't hire students, but they never stick around. So you have an enormous responsibility even from the organization institute point of view to wherever you go and join, you work at least for 3 to 4 years and set your foundation before you look for a change to other organizations. So it's a question of survival and growth both, because you are in both sides of the conundrum, and where you see when there's a, suppose there are recession times there, when you talk about the survival phase, the first thing which the organization is doing, which is not many times not a correct thing to do, the easiest thing is to reduce the manpower hiring, reduce the training and development cost, as well as many things which are reduce the HR department. No, HR department, what they are doing. People think that, they're not generating any revenue, but they're not doing what kind of harm they're doing. I have seen organizations which have taken care of people when there was recession, people really knew that this company really cares for us. I know of companies, I don't know whether I name or not, big companies, they don't have any problem retaining people. The first thing they reduce the people, and people, when really they need people, people are very careful, because they're not commodities. All as resources, you think, depreciates over a period of time. Human resource is the only asset which appreciates over a period of time if you nurture them. They only can make a difference to your organization. You can't sit in the gallery and just talk that the human resource is the most important resource of the organization, but really you don't mean it. People can see through the things. Okay? So everybody wants growth phase. If the company grows, we all grow in the process. And good companies know how to grow their people from within. Those companies will not look around for people to hire the senior levels. They will always look around for people who are really, who are grown within the system, but they know they are aligned to the culture. I will show you some of these survey findings, how when you hire people from outside at senior level, the mortality rate is higher. Okay? How do you bring about the desired change in the organization? So basically, we all want to change, but how do you bring about? It's all about the HR strategies. Remember one thing, strategy is a very simple thing. We only make it complicated or jargonized. We use strategy to make ourselves important. In meetings, I tell people, what are the other multiple avenues available, and go for the best possible solution within your manageable resources. That's all. Otherwise, we talk about breakthrough. What I'm trying to tell you here is the HR strategy in middle I put here, the organization strategies, organization capabilities, environment, and all these things center around HR strategies. HR strategy is all about people strategy. People strategy is not, I repeat, responsibility of only few HR professionals in the organization. HR, all the line managers are real HR managers. Tomorrow, you work in either marketing, supply chain, operation, finance, wherever it is, including HR. If one person reports to you, you become the HR first point of call for that person. I remember in Tata Motors, when I used to work years back, I started my career as graduate trainee. Whenever there used to be a problem, well, no, your problem, go to HR for solution. HR has no magic solution. So we are training in this current company also in Raymond, how we call line managers as people managers. How we strengthen the line managers so they take the responsibility of people manager, and in turn, they are the touch points. They radiate positive things to the employees. And you know from various studies, people leave organization for bosses, not for other reasons. So that's a number one in the survey. In many surveys I've seen, people leave the organization because they don't like the boss's style. See, change is inevitable whether you like it or not. But change can be a transactional change, or change can be a transformational change. It's easier said than done. The people who are the drivers of the change, as leaders, they also should be aligned, and their traits, what is required, should be different. So, there are companies in India, and many of them, and by choice they want to change gradually. Some of the companies who are in aggressive mode, they want to change the business strategy, and Remember, strategies are no longer valid for 5 years, 6 years. One of the students were asking questions. These days, it's a very dynamic strategy. You have to change, with changing times, and don't know what happens internationally, and then immediately find things are changing, dynamics changes. So you have to have a very, very robust plan with a lot of flexibility built into the strategy in the organization. So if you have a leader who is basically a transactional leader, that means he's task focused, he's basically a process-oriented person and rule-oriented, you can't expect from him the transformational change. Because that person is visionary, he is risk-taking, and he wants to go for new innovations. So it is very essential. People who manage the organization, you have to have the right place. That's why you find the mortality rate of the CEOs or MDs are very less. Because the change that they are required to bring in are very, very dynamic. And you study many Indian companies, top companies, into international companies, you will realize what I'm telling you, how the CEOs or MDs are changed sooner than later. So now let's come to what are the main HR challenges. It can be more, but I could comprehend and put it based on my experience, some of these points. I will dwell a little bit in detail to drive home some of the points. And if you have any question in between, please ensure, because my next faculty has already come in, and Mr. Pawar, and your also lunch break is there. So I will ensure, I may do, with your permission, a little fast forwarding, because we are actually running late. But I told you I'm repeating. I am there to answer each and every questions, whatever there in your mind. Okay. The complex organizations, I want to bring you some of the dichotomies. And these are real dichotomies, not theoretical stuff. See, you talk about empowerment, but you really don't empower people. So that means you as a boss are doing two-level lower work. First, you have to believe in people, hire the right candidate, and empower them. Then you have to make yourself redundant in your current role wherever you are. Then only you can aspire to go high. Don't have insecurities. There are enough space for each one of us to thrive and grow in various organizations. If the current organization is not good enough, always scope is there if you have the right talent and stuff in you. There are power-centric cultures are there where the decision-making authority is centralized, not necessarily owner-driven companies. Even multinational companies I have seen, I worked in one of them as director of HR, where every decision central point was coming through the CMD. So it depends on the CEO or MD who manages. There, you get into an execution mode. You are not getting the opportunity to really apply what your knowledge is. So you decide to what extent you want to continue to work and then take a call. Hierarchy approach, there are companies there where, we talk hierarchy, we associate with the public sector companies, but there are private sector companies also where you can't reach across one level up, you have to go through your boss for everything. So what I'm trying to bring in, you can't change the culture of the company. You have to adapt yourself. But there are ways of managing around, but be aware that these are the things that's possible and they are real. I have experience in working in this 32 years that they're real things, and it makes you uncomfortable in many ways, but don't have this flight system. We call fight or flight syndrome. Don't have to run with the first opportunity because you never know. Distant hills look greener. But you go to a new organization, maybe things are worse than this. So you have to align yourself, adapt yourself to ensure that you beat the system. I call something, every organization will have organization politics. Would you be a part of it? I ask students, would you like to be a part of organization politics? Raise your hands. Would you like to be or not like to be? No. Do you have a choice not to be in part of politics? No, you have to be part of it. But what I tell people, it's very important, very simple also. When you don't distance yourself, be aloof, so you will be left out. Be around with people, but don't add your bit. If somebody is talking, there's always a vicarious pleasure by talking about, this person is sacked, this person has been done, our boss didn't like him, he was shouting at it. If somebody is telling, you don't add your stuff. Yeah, I also feel he's a nonsensical chap. No, you put up a broad smile. If you're in a group, if somebody tells, you just smile. Then you're not saying yes, you're not saying no, but you are part of the group. This is important. I've seen it. It's not easy to do it because you're tempted. If you have some personal enmity or something in your back of mind, you try to offload your baggage. So person who started this movement, he is out and you are caught, then they will tell you are the person who is trying to do all those things. You will be in the bad books. So organization politics is a reality. How to be around it, it's your call, and you can always do it efficiently. Hypocrisy is there everywhere, as human beings are there, but we talk about transparency dealing, but we can't blame the whole system. If you are the boss, you are responsible for 5 people, be transparent. Don't, in the garb of keeping confidential, don't keep it everything to yourself. Give. Very little things will be gone. My team will be knowing practically what I'm doing at my level. Every meeting I have with my CEO or MD, I simply download them. So I am free. I am not being disturbed by any time. If anything required, but team totally does it. And this is important, remember, because to make ourselves important, we keep things to ourselves, which doesn't help us. Closed door, open door policies, style of management they talk about new generation companies are open door. The old brick and mortar companies are closed door. It's nothing like it. In the same company, in my company itself, some people, the door is always open. Everybody is walking, so can I come in? Yeah, please come in. Some people you have to ask the secretary and they will tell, yeah, boss is not free for the next 2 days. So it depends. It's a style you have to act, but you have a way of aligning yourself with the boss to, even though boss is a closed door boss, you find out, you bump into him accidentally by designing to meet him in the corridor when he's going for lunch or walk into office, but find a way to reach out to your bosses, even though they are a closed door kind of style of management is there. Behavioral aspects also dynamics is important. The impact of leader, a style of management you can't change. You can't choose your boss, you can choose your subordinate. So you have to really work around him, and always there will be undercurrents, one department blaming others. You are in marketing, this people in marketing will tell production is not done, given the right time, right product in the right time, so we are not selling. Marketing people, it's a continuous tug of war. Every day we have a con call and I'm part of it. The marketing people blame the production for not giving it. Production people tell that no, we have excess stuff, but you are not able to sell in the market. So this goes on. You have to find a way out. That's why we have this business simulations. You have to see from others' perspective and don't be working in a silo. Expectation mismatch between workers and management, because workers always feel they're underdogs, management people, and you are going to boss around, but the more you reach out to the people at the ground level, it's good for you. Don't have the chip in your block. I have from Balaji Institute. I have started a management training who are these workers. And the people who are in the frontline people, the sales, marketing, production, they're the people, they know this stuff. If you want to learn, best go to the frontline person, respect, give the proper respect, and learn from them. You will grow faster than what you think you can do. The professional levels are different, but what I'm telling you, we should not talk only negative. Each one of us has certain skill sets. I always tell people, don't harp on the negatives. If there is a square peg in a round hole, try to bring this. If somebody is not doing well, don't discard him or her. Try to change, give an opportunity. So you as a leader, you in the organization dynamics is important. Otherwise, nobody will stick around. They'll tell this boss finds fault in everybody. So that you should be aware of it. Multiple reporting matrix structure, people are not comfortable, but this is a fact of life. You have to report to more than one person, so there will be conflicting demands, expectations, you have to work around it. And these days, because of restructuring, realignment, you find there are 4 regional managers there, one fine mining boss decided, no, we'll start off with 2 regional managers, so people become redundant before you realize. So ensure that you have the more than one skill set, so that brings you to either brings you to corporate office. People tell, no, this fellow is only good for sales in the regional office only, he was not suitable. So you have to be aware particularly that this realignment of structures in various departments and functions is a reality and is going to happen. And you have to learn to know more than one function. Something is given formally, something is informally. People want to learn everything of a function formally. That's not possible. The bigger the organization, you will be working in a particular function and then growth. But nobody stops you from reaching out to other functions and learning. Gen X, Gen Y. Are you in Gen Y or Gen X? Gen Y. Okay. I'm in what gen? No. So I ran a program for a management institute in Bombay on Gen X, Gen Y for 2 hours. Very detailed. I was tempted, but I thought time is short, so I didn't bring in. Gen X thinks, Gen Y people think, say 90s born people, you can early 90s and late 80s will be in Gen X, and then we talk about Gen Y. Now we talk about Gen Z actually. So what I'm telling you, this should be healthy tolerance. You think your parents know less of technology, they're not fast, they're all control oriented, all those things. So many things happens. I have children like you. But what is required is every generation will have certain skill sets which can be leveraged. In an organization, there'll be old people. We tell, oh, this fellow is 50 plus. Kya jante hai usko? No, you seek out, there'll be certain things which will be very, very important. And I always dissuade line managers telling, no, this person is slow. He's not able to work at the pace I am desiring. Why not ensuring them a subject matter expert? Why not leveraging what he or she has learned over a period of time? So it is important, even in teams, you may be required to report to very old people wherever you join, but see that you learn and give the respect. And what will happen, what utility value you create for yourself is important. There's a busy world, all of us are busy. If there are 5 people like you join in an organization, then you find one person is more closer, not just by doing other things other than the merit-based organization, but to want to be close to the boss by other means is a very short-term thing. And nobody appreciates the boss these 2 people who join just by saying yes. What new things you bring to the table? So it's important that you learn from, and this mutual maturity versus young, that combination is very important. We talk about gender diversity and geographical diversity. I was in Japan for a program on cross-skills management. 14 country people were there. There was a 2 months program. I can tell you the wealth of knowledge I gained from there. Every country people have a very clear and distinct focus on how they manage this various diversities. You've got gender, demographic, the people from one senior person from China, one from Japan, from many European countries. I realized there's no set of rules. So you can't implement this because the company is talking about you should have 50% ladies because we need to have a equal gender diversity. It will not work. So you have to see your company and accordingly you see. But what will work for the company, that industry segment, and you have to work. And just don't replicate success story of other companies just because we need to have this. It's a busy slide, but I just want to tell you, I bring in the employee engagement piece here just to tell you that employees are the main drivers who can bring in the difference. So ensure that they are aligned to the big picture. Otherwise, they will only be doing a limited area of work and they don't know what's happening. And very essential to always communicate to the people through various sources what is the larger picture. If there are problems in the company, employees are the first people should be told that these are the issues happening. Learning and growth obviously is very essential because if the company does grow, it's a pipe dream and you can't grow people, and there'll be enough, there won't be enough elbow space for people to grow in the organization. Then the undercurrents, backbiting, politics, all those things happens. Empowerment, I have already told you, and it has to be shown in action. Reward and recognition is very, very essential. It's not necessarily you have to give more bonus or increment. Many ways you have to acknowledge people, and there are certainly many companies are doing it. Even creation of a talent pool and ensuring that you reward people for doing something different. In our company, we have something called I value card, a simple card. If you do something different on that day, I and my team, even the line people will tell, I value you for today I'm giving this because this is something you have done differently. And they proudly display on the table how many I values cards they have got it. Engaging and leveraging is a very, very clear connotation. I want to tell you that this is a study again. It says that for every 5% improvement in employee engagement, see the difference to the business it makes. 1.04 increase in revenue and 0.1% increase in profile. Because many times I'm thinking, because I come from line to HR, I started in a line function, people will value us if we show them something to do with top line and bottom line. Otherwise they think HR, otherwise what happens in company I've seen, if the CEO gets a message to meet, he will meet first the finance person, they'll meet the salesperson, and while he's packing his bags, HR person is struggling to ask the secretary, he's still, okay, call him. What happened? Can it wait till tomorrow? His driver is taking his bag. Yes, sir. Is it that urgent that you need to discuss with me? That urgency never comes. It's a story for HR. So HR has to really play that role of business partner and ensure that every program, let it be training and development or any people development program, it should always have a ROI. It's not easy, but you need to, then only the CEO or MD will look up, provide you more revenues, more facilities. You need building, you need facilities to train people, you need to call external speakers, you need to send the people to cutting edge training institute in IIM or abroad. It doesn't come cheap. So how HR can make an impact depending on how you're able to prove to them that all these things are in turn going to have a bottom line contribution. So business performance has a direct correlation. In fact, very clearly in our company, we are told that don't do any training. Earlier it was there are 2 mandates for every employee in the company. I don't believe in that. Training has to be need-based. If somebody may not go for any training at all, if he or she is doing a standard job, why? Not required. Why to invest time and effort, money is not required. When anytime I go to inaugurate program, ask why you are there. No sir, my boss told me to attend this program. Not required. Why should you attend a program if it's not required? Talent management, we talk about it, but it's important. You need to have a talent pipeline. You need to have a robust talent pool. And to retain them, you have to have various, because people who are good, they want fast-track growth. They want fast-track promotion. So you need to continuously engage them and leverage their existing talent, rotate, provide them need-based job rotation, enhance their various skill sets so they're ready to take up the next level of all the opportunities that's coming in the organization. Yeah. So question comes is, in a company, everybody can't be talent. Some 10-15% you talk about top talent, critical talent, whatever. Do you ignore the rest of the non-track talent? So they will think, chalo, let the company run with 10. It's not. Because there are some people who are the steady runners and who are good in their own respect, but may not be termed as top talent. My submission is, and also this study says that you spot early talent. But it can't be a sacrosanct, rigid box. People can be a part of talent pool, out of it, and it should be a continuous expectation. In fact, it will be worthwhile if you enhance the talent pool by adding people every year. And if somebody who's in talent pool doesn't mean that till he or she retires, he'll be in the talent pool. Not required. And you have to provide the continuous support, because there can't be a standard rule for each employee is different. That's why instead of calling personal management, we call it human resource management. It's not a re-nomenclature. That means you invest your time with each person who has different expectations, aspirations, growth plan, and he or she needs to be treated differently. So development and growth is, we call IDP, individual development plan. It is there for manager and for every employee in the company. And tracking is not easy, because you have to provide those interventions, what you have promised, you have to deliver. Question comes is whether to hire talent from outside or to build talent from within. It's a difficult call, but this survey shows that the mortality rate of people whom we have hired, we call as buy, talent from outside is very high. So it's always better to have a very clear succession plan and proper input, so that, in turn, the talent supply is a balanced supply and depends on the industry segment, as well as how you are able to retain people. You should have minimal external, because they come with different ideas. I can give you an example of a company where the company was in a different sector. They thought they will have a cutting-edge finance CFO. So they hired CFO from Hindustan Unilever, the home segment. This is an owner-driven company. The CFO came and realized what are the standard SOPs are there. That is not there at all. He found everywhere he looked at it, there was problem and problem. The owner is telling, siphon this much of money into this account. He's telling, no, this you do. Whenever you have signing a contract, take money to 10% cut so that, that you transfer. So he just got bewildered. And this divorce happened sooner than later. In 6 months, the CFO had to leave. So you have to also understand these cultural nuances, what kind of organization it is, owner-driven, multinational, and whether it's a partnership company, because that is important. So what I'm trying to drive home is hiring people at the top level and desiring that he or she will totally change the organization is not going to happen. So it's very essential. So why not grooming from people from within? And that is the long-term sustaining thing. Knowledge management, I have seen last couple of years, it is resting with only few people. The person retire and go away, and you realize that, you're not able to do it. In our company, there are excellent knowledgeable people who have grown to the top level, GM and director level, and they're good in spinning, they're good in weaving, and whatever we talk about quality. So we tell them that you should not go away with the person retiring. One day or other, somebody is going to retire. Have a formal system of capturing this data and putting in a system. Now, this cloud computing, all those things are there. You capture this data formally, record it, and ensure that you keep it. With organization is a perpetual entity. Human beings will come and go. And good companies, I know of Airtel who have chief knowledge officer kind of people, and they capture it. Also, what you can do is, if some problem has been resolved successfully in one circle, why not replicating that thing rather than going from zero base and trying to experiment? Nobody has time to do this thing. So knowledge management is very essential, and also benchmark with the industry segments, and share the success stories in different groups in the company, so that somebody will be motivated to come out with still better things to help the organization. Communication, we talk about it, but we ignore. Communication between the CEO and the 1 or 2 levels is excellent, most companies. But people below, manager and below, till the first frontline person, there are a lot of blocks in communication. Nobody cares to give it. So you will find all this grapevine, vicarious pleasures. People don't realize what's happening, and this is a very confused state in many organizations I've seen. So it is important in whatever position, if you are an assistant manager or deputy manager or manager, wherever level you will be growing the organization, see that what you get from bosses, communicate. Because if people know, even particularly when companies not going through good times, communicate clearly. Things are not good. These are the issues. So it's important that they also understand where they stand. Otherwise, people will blame the organization perennially. Their motivation is not there. They feel they are being short-charged. And in turn, it's a lot of negative energy around in the organization. And you should also call people from good companies for motivational talks. And that helps. How other companies, during, suppose, a recession is there, how other companies tackle this thing. And people get ideas, and that's important. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to tell you is, in this dynamic corporate world, the HR people are a very important people, and HR doesn't mean only HR people strike me. All people in various functions, who is a people manager, I'm talking about HR. Continuously work and execute various people management strategies, and that's a need of the hour, need of the day, depending on how and what is required for the organization, and enable the employees to meet the challenges. But they can only make a difference to the organization. There should be a demonstrated effort by the company that we care. You can't just talk and not show it. It's a very, very experiential kind of thing. And so so you can't say rule doesn't permit, this is not possible, that's not possible. Okay, then nobody will come to me. As a director HR in textile, 10 people who come, 8 to 9 cases of deviation. If there's something is required as per the policy, they don't need to see my face. It's there in the internet, they can see policies, processes, guidelines. Why they need to come and meet me? Not required. So when they come, I have the authority to deviate. But remember, I have a very important role to play. The moment I deviate based on some consideration, that becomes a precedence. Once you create a precedence, that is going to catch you by your neck. But tomorrow you do it, somebody else comes, no, I did this fellow, why did you do for him? You also give that benefit, because rightfully or otherwise, even the people don't deserve, they think that yes, I deserve the best, I need all the deviations. So the senior person you go, he has the authority, but he has to use it judiciously. And long-term engagement of the employees in the organization is essential and will depend on what kind of value addition to his career and growth opportunity to provide. Then only we talk about the organization as a leader, because people who are there, who are holding posts, not necessarily the CEOs, leaders, every person who is a team, he's a leader for his team. So HR person has to have this control all delete button, and that is very essential. Control the situation by rationalizing various resources to its optimum productivity level. And when you study optimum, you will be studying in your various subjects. Optimum is very difficult to define, but you have the various ways, benchmarking others. You should know that you are the best as far as the industry is concerned. There's no point having anything surplus, because that is going to catch you. Alteration can be done when you talk about right sizing. Nobody talks about reducing manpower. This is right sizing, right? What? And provide the opportunity. Don't just kick off people because they're not commodities. But in case it's required, be bold enough also to exit people. We are not like US, we give pink slip and people go away next day. But we have emotional connect with people. But still, if it is required, don't shy away. You ensure that you exit the person if after providing the opportunity he or she is not able to do justice to it. I think that's all. Thank you.